Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to dive into the wild, crazy story of Charles Ponzi, the man who gave his name to the infamous Ponzi scheme. Strap in, because this is going to be a wild ride through financial fraud history. Early life. Charles Ponzi was born Carlo Ponzi in Italy in 1882. His family was not wealthy, and Carlo had dreams of becoming rich quickly. As a young man, he immigrated to the United States, landing in Boston in 1903. He soon got involved in a variety of shady dealings, including smuggling Italian immigrants into the U.S. and spending time in prison for forgery. The origins of his scheme. After his release from prison, Ponzi got involved in a form of international postage fraud. At the time, it was possible to buy international postal reply coupons in one country and redeem them for stamps in another country. The value of the stamps was often higher, allowing for an arbitrage profit. This gave Ponzi the idea of soliciting investors to send him money to purchase the coupons, promising very high returns. The Ponzi scheme is born. In late 1919, Ponzi started his own firm and began seeking investors in his postage stamp scheme. He promised investors a 50% return in 90 days. The early investors did indeed get paid very high returns with their initial investments. This created a frenzy, and soon Ponzi was taking in $1 million a week from eager investors. At its height, Ponzi's scheme took in $250,000 a day. Collapse of the scheme. By July 1920, Ponzi had made millions, but the tide was turning. Financial reporters began questioning how Ponzi could be making so much money just from postal coupons. The post office stated that Ponzi's reported income was impossible from just coupon trading. Soon, investigators determined that, while some early investors were paid returns, most of the money was simply being redirected from new investors to pay earlier ones. Ponzi tried to shift assets abroad, but eventually the scheme collapsed entirely. Investors lost approximately $20 million, with some losing their entire life savings. Ponzi eventually turned himself in and was sentenced to prison, where he spent many years. Aftermath. Ponzi was released from prison in 1934 and deported back to Italy. He ended up in poverty, working occasionally as a translator. He died in a charity hospital in 1949. But his name lived on as a synonym for financial fraud. The Ponzi scheme describes any scam where early investors are paid fake returns using money put in by later investors, rather than actual profits. Ponzi was born into a poor family in Italy. He showed signs of criminal tendencies early on, stealing from his parents and even parish priests. Ponzi immigrated to the United States in 1903 with only $2.50 to his name. He worked a variety of jobs, including as a postal worker, a waiter, and a salesman. In 1919, Ponzi started his Ponzi scheme. He promised investors a 50% profit within 45 days or 100% profit within 90 days by buying discounted postal reply coupons in other countries and redeeming them at face value in the U.S. Ponzi's scheme attracted a large number of investors, including many wealthy people. He was able to raise over $15 million in just a few months. Ponzi's scheme eventually collapsed when it became clear that he was unable to generate enough money from the coupons to pay off all of his investors. He was arrested in 1920 and charged with mail fraud. Ponzi was convicted and sentenced to 5 years in prison. He was released in 1925 and deported to Italy. Ponzi moved to Brazil in 1934. He died in poverty in 1949. The story of Charles Ponzi is one of greed, ambition, and fraud played out on a massive scale. It serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of get-rich-quick schemes that promise impossible profits. While Ponzi operated nearly 100 years ago, his style of scam lives on today in things like pyramid schemes and other investment frauds. The legacy of the man who gave his name to one of history's most famous financial frauds endures.